They were supposed to celebrate 22 years together that night. Maria had ironed his favorite blue shirt, the one he wore on their first anniversary. The table was set. 2 candles, white lilies, and their usual dessert, chocolate mousse with a hint of mint. She smiled at their wedding photo on the wall, a younger version of them, full of dreams. "We made it through everything," she whispered. "This year will be special." She went to his study to find the lighter for the candles when she noticed a brown envelope near his laptop. Her name was written on it, just her name, in his handwriting. Smiling, she thought it might be a letter, maybe a surprise note like before. She opened it carefully. Silence. Inside were divorce papers. Her hands froze. Her breath stopped. "No," she whispered. "This has to be a mistake." The clock ticked. The food grew cold. Her world turned to ice. Then came the sound of the front door unlocking. He was home. The door clicked open. Maria quickly wiped her face, shoved the papers back into the envelope, and hid it behind a book. "Hey," he said calmly. "You're home early," she replied, forcing a smile. He nodded, looked at the table. "You cooked?" "Of course," she said, her voice trembling. "It's our anniversary." He froze for a moment. "Right, anniversary." That pause said everything. They sat down. The candles flickered, shadows moving on the wall. He looked tired, not from work, but from something heavier. "You've been quiet lately," she said. "Just thinking," he replied, eyes down. "About what?" "About us." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. "Us?" she asked, her voice cracking. "After 22 years?" He stayed silent, pushing food around his plate. "I found something today," she said. His fork stopped. He looked up. "What did you find?" "An envelope." Silence. "So, you know," he whispered. Maria swallowed hard. "You were really going to do this, tonight?" He looked away. "I didn't know how to tell you. I thought it would be easier if I found out by accident." She cut in, tears falling. "After everything we've built?" The candles flickered. One nearly went out but stayed alive.
"I gave you everything," Maria said softly.
"I was there when you had nothing." He nodded, eyes on the table.
"I remember."
"Then what changed, David?"
"When did forever stop meaning forever? He exhaled, shoulders heavy. I don't know. Maybe when I started feeling empty."
"Empty?" "Yes. We live in the same house, but it doesn't feel like home anymore." She stared at him. "And you think signing papers will fix that?" "It's not about fixing," he said quietly. "It's about ending something that's already over." Ending. The word echoed through her chest. She stood up slowly. "So that's it? You just decided, alone?" "I didn't want to hurt you," he said.
She laughed bitterly.
"You didn't want to hurt me?"
"What do you think this is?"
He said nothing. The silence screamed between them. "You could have told me," she said, tears falling. "You owed me that." "I tried," he whispered. "But every time I looked at you, I couldn't do it. You looked hopeful." "Hopeful?" she said, shaking her head. "No, David. I wasn't hopeful. I was loyal. There's a difference." He rubbed his temples.
"You will all be fine. You're strong, Maria."
She looked at him, really looked, and saw not her husband but a stranger. A man she once loved, now too tired to try. "Maybe that's the saddest part," she whispered. "That you don't even know what you're walking away from." Maria walked into their bedroom, the one they painted together 20 years ago. The walls still held their laughter. The photo frames still smiled back. But tonight, it all felt like a museum of memories that no longer belonged to her. She sat on the edge of the bed, trembling as she picked up an old wedding photo. "We were just kids," she whispered. "We thought love would fix everything." A tear fell onto the glass.
"You promised you'd never leave me," she said softly.
The room stayed silent, the same silence that had lived between them for years. She set the frame down and lay back, staring at the ceiling. Memories played like an old film. Laughter, fights, apologies, and moments that once felt endless. When did we stop talking? She wondered. When did love become duty? Her phone buzzed. A message from her daughter. *Happy anniversary, Mom. Love you both.
Stern.
Her heart broke again. She didn't reply. She couldn't. She placed the phone face down and sighed. Maybe I wasn't enough, she whispered. Maybe I gave too much. Then, a quiet voice inside her answered.
No, Maria.
You weren't the problem. You were the love that stayed. For the first time that night, she closed her eyes, not in pain but in exhaustion. And in that silence, she felt something new. Not peace. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains, warm and gentle. Maria opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, she forgot. Then she saw the empty space beside her, and remembered. But something felt different. The silence didn't hurt anymore. It simply existed. She sat up, brushed her hair back, and looked in the mirror. Her eyes were tired red, but behind them was something new. Strength. The kind that comes after breaking. She looked at her reflection and whispered, "You're still here." It wasn't loud. It wasn't confident. But it was real. She made tea, just one cup. And somehow, that felt okay. For the first time in years, she didn't check her phone. She didn't wait. She sat on the balcony, the morning breeze on her face, and let herself feel. She remembered her mother's words. When someone leaves, they take only what was never meant for you. Maria smiled faintly. Maybe that was true. Maybe love wasn't meant to last forever. Maybe it was meant to teach forever. She looked at the rising sun and whispered, "You'll be okay, Maria. You always find a way." And for the first time since the night before, she believed it. Days turned into weeks. Maria didn't notice when the sadness stopped feeling heavy and started feeling distant. She began to move differently, slower, but with purpose. Each morning, she opened the curtains, let the sunlight in, and whispered, "Today will be mine." She started walking again, short walks around the park. At first, she wore sunglasses to hide her tears. Soon, she didn't need them anymore.
The world hadn't changed.
But she had. She began journaling. Small things, what she ate, what she felt, the color of the sky. And between the lines, she started to find herself again. One morning, she wrote, "He left because he was done.
I'm healing because I'm not." Stern.
That line stayed with her all day. She smiled at it, her quiet, secret strength. Neighbors who once whispered now stopped to greet her. "You look different," one said. Maria smiled. "Maybe I finally do." There was no bitterness, only peace. She had stopped waiting for closure from him. She was giving it to herself. And every night before sleep, she whispered to the quiet room,
"I forgive you, David." Pause.
"And I forgive me too." 2 years later, Maria stood in a bookstore, her fingers brushing along rows of novels. She wasn't searching, just letting life surprise her again. Then came a voice. "Maria." She froze. That voice, familiar, calm, uncertain. She turned. David. Older. Grayer. Smaller somehow. For a moment, time stood still. Then she smiled, gentle, polite. "David," she said quietly. "It's been a while." "Yeah," he said, hands in his pockets. "You look different." "I am." He looked down, avoiding her eyes. "I've thought about you a lot. About what I did." "I know," she said softly. "I was selfish. You didn't deserve that." She nodded, calm and kind. "Maybe. But I learned something because of it." He looked up. "What's that?" "That sometimes losing someone is the only way to find yourself." Silence settled, not heavy this time, but peaceful. David nodded slowly. "You seem happy." Maria smiled. "I am." She turned to leave, a small poetry book in her hand. "Take care, David." "You too." And as she walked away, sunlight spilling across her shoulders. She realized something. She wasn't running from her past anymore. She was walking into her peace. It had been 3 years since that night. The divorce papers, the tears, the silence, all had turned into distant echoes. Maria still lived in the same house, but it no longer felt empty. It felt like hers. The garden bloomed again. The walls that once heard her sobs now held soft music and laughter, hers alone. Every morning, she wrote in her journal. Sometimes small things like, "Made good coffee today." Sometimes deeper ones, "I'm learning to love the quiet." She started volunteering at the library, helping young girls who felt lost in their own stories. One day, a girl asked, "Miss Maria, how do you move on from someone who broke you?" Maria smiled and said, "You don't move on from them. You move back into yourself." The girl nodded, tears in her eyes, and Maria saw a reflection of her younger self. That's when she realized what she lost wasn't love, it was illusion. What she found was truth. That evening, Maria sat on her balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky gold. She whispered, "Thank you for leaving." Not out of bitterness, but gratitude. Because sometimes, endings aren't punishment, they're invitations to begin again. Months passed quietly, like pages turning in a book she'd learned to love again. Maria's life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. The kind of peace that comes not from forgetting the past, but from making peace with it. Every Friday, she visited the little cafe near the park, the one she used to walk by but never entered. Now, it was her favorite place. She'd sit by the window with her notebook, sipping tea, watching people laugh, live, and love. And when couples passed by hand in hand, she didn't feel pain anymore, just warmth. Because she knew, love wasn't what broke her. Expectation was. One evening, as golden light filled the cafe, the barista smiled and said, "You should publish what you write. Your words feel healing." Maria smiled. "Maybe one day," she said softly. That night, she wrote in her journal. Once, I cried over a man who left. Now, I write for the women who stayed. And in that single line, Maria became whole. She looked out the window, whispered to the night sky, "Thank you for every ending that led me here." Then she closed her journal. The story of Maria didn't end. It became a voice. A voice that would tell other women, "You can start again too." It's funny, she thought, how life takes everything you thought you needed, and replaces it with everything you never knew you were missing. Maria's mornings now began with gratitude instead of grief. She'd sit on her balcony, sip her tea slowly, and whisper the same 3 words every day. "I am enough." Some days she still missed him. Not the man he became, but the version of him that once held her hand. And that was okay. Healing, she learned, wasn't forgetting. It was remembering without pain. She began writing letters she never sent. To him, to her younger self, to the woman she used to be. In one of them, she wrote, "Thank you for surviving the nights you thought you couldn't." When she closed her journal, she smiled. Not from joy, but from peace. The kind that only comes after letting go completely. That night, as moonlight touched her face, she realized she didn't need anyone to complete her story. She was the story. The heartbreak, the healing, the rediscovery. All of it was her becoming whole. And somewhere in the quiet of her heart, a soft voice whispered, "You made it, Maria. You really did."